Hey folks, welcome back to SCP Explained. Sorry if I seem a little out of it today. Truth be told, I've been having real trouble sleeping lately. Perhaps it's because I spend so much time pouring through the files of the SCP Foundation archive. Also, I've been catching up on the West Wing. There's plenty of creatures, entities, objects, and tales that are very effective at making you lose sleep, but none quite as effective as SCP-966. Grab yourself a pot of coffee and prop your eyelids open with some matchsticks or tape, because you need to stay alert if you want to survive this one. Though when you get on the wrong side of SCP-966, I'm sorry to tell you that your chances of survival are extremely low. And after experiencing its primary anomalous effects, the question of how long you'll even want to survive will become disturbingly prescient. Like many of our explorations into the living nightmares that the SCP Foundation deals with on a daily basis, the best way to experience exactly what SCP-966 can do is to take a look at a case study regarding one of its many unfortunate victims. In this case, that victim is a man named Terry Hallberg from New Mexico. In another life, perhaps Terry would have been an ideal candidate for a junior researcher position at the SCP Foundation. He was a scientific-minded truth seeker whose interests lied in the more esoteric fields of study, namely ghosts and aliens. Proving the existence of life in the stars and the supernatural in general was something he considered to be his life's work. This is why he moved to New Mexico, home of Roswell, and widely considered to be the UFO capital of the United States in the first place. There, he'd perform experiments on a wide range of bizarre phenomenon, from exploring haunted houses to obsessively watching the sky for any anomalous activity. He'd become a bigwig in his niche online paranormal investigation community, and his posts on the somewhat infamous Parawatch forum always garnered plenty of attention. But Terry wanted more. He wasn't in it for the fame, or the money, or the legions of insatiable paranormal investigator groupies. He was a true believer. He wanted a close, first-hand experience with the supernatural, and that was exactly what he was about to get, in addition to a very harsh lesson about being careful what you wish for. It began when he got called out to Albuquerque for a strange case of cattle mutilation. For those who don't frequent the Parawatch forums quite as often as Terry, cattle mutilation is the most common nickname for the phenomenon of large livestock, usually cows, being found dead with unusual mutilation patterns on their corpses. While the particulars of what exactly this means varies from believer to believer, with theories ranging from aliens to black helicopters, it is widely accepted across all branches of paranormal enthusiasts that when cattle are being mutilated, something very strange is afoot. Terry arrived at the ranch, and with the application of a little cash to grease the appropriate palms, he was able to conduct a recorded interview with the rancher. He was a weathered man in his early 60s, with a somewhat frantic demeanor and profoundly tired eyes. When Terry asked him if he'd experienced any unusual phenomenon in the days leading up to the cattle mutilation incident, he was surprisingly forthcoming about the hellish conditions he'd been experiencing lately. The strange experiences had been going on for several days now. It all started when the rancher noticed that a number of his cows weren't sleeping. This isn't the easiest thing to spot in a cow, because cattle engage in what is known as polyphasic sleep, where instead of sleeping for one prolonged period like humans typically do, they sleep in small intervals throughout a 24-hour period. Cows can even sleep standing up for periods of light rest, but during REM sleep, which all mammals need for healthy functioning, they lay down just like us. The problem was, in the last several days, many of the rancher's cows hadn't slept at all. It was after this that the rancher seemingly began to have bizarre paranormal experiences himself. It began with a general sense of unease and dread, which was soon followed by a sense of severe insomnia that had left him completely unable to sleep for the past 2 days. During this period, things had gotten worse. He'd experienced strange noises around his home, footsteps, what sounded like hushed voices, and occasionally even what could only be identified as a low, croaking growl. But it wasn't just noises. There was also physical evidence of some kind of intrusion. Items had been knocked over or moved. At one point, a glass of water, which had been centralized on a stable surface, had somehow fallen off the edge and shattered. The old rancher, with a trembling voice, even stated that he'd seen things moving in the corners of his eyes. Figures, shapes, little green men. And then, the cattle mutilation spree began. It may have sounded morbid, but Terry had to use everything in his power to stop himself from smiling ear to ear. While this was a terrifying experience for the rancher, for Terry, this was an absolutely textbook case of paranormal experience. And here he was, the very first person to document it all. It could be the next Skinwalker Ranch or Rendlesham Forest incident, and his name would forever be attached to it. He asked the rancher if he could see the cow's body, and the rancher obliged. Whatever had caused this, alien, ghost, or otherwise, had really done a number on this cow. Good portions of its abdomen had been torn away, with evidence of what appeared to be biting and clawing. This poor beast had been eaten alive. While exploring the wounds with a magnifying glass, a scalpel, and a large pair of tweezers, Terry discovered something incredible. Something frankly unprecedented for a cattle mutilation case. A piece of evidence left behind directly by whatever had perpetrated this act of gruesome violence. A long, thin, and exceedingly sharp claw, around 12 centimeters in length and broken at one end. New Mexico's large predators included mountain lions, black bears, bobcats, and coyotes, and this claw was nothing like any of those. In fact, it was nothing like Terry had ever seen before. Was this his big moment? Had he discovered evidence of an entirely new supernatural creature or a specimen of extraterrestrial life? He was practically vibrating with excitement about this new discovery. After thanking and paying the rancher again, Terry took some photos, gathered some more samples, and left. He had everything he needed to conduct a groundbreaking investigation into the supernatural. Just wait until the folks on Parawatch heard about this. In all his excitement, as he drove back home from the ranch, he never once stopped to consider what he might be bringing back with him. But really, in the end, it didn't even matter. From the moment he stepped onto that ranch, Terry Hallberg was already doomed. He just didn't know it yet. He arrived home and began to record all of his information onto one master document. He also began obsessively assembling outside research, hoping to find similar cases that he could add to this emerging pattern. It was a mix of phenomenon from both hauntings and alien encounters. Could this possibly be some form of alien ghost? The dream find of every paranormal investigator. Terry had to still his racing heart as the possibilities bombarded his mind. He could have been working with the paranormal find of the century here. In fact, he was so excited by all of this, he didn't even realize that he worked through the entire night. He didn't sleep a wink. After all, how could you, when such important research needed to be done? The burst of nocturnal energy felt like a godsend. The next night, not so much. In the meantime, Terry had compiled his information together enough to present it to his esteemed paranormal colleagues on the Parawatch forums. They were startled and amazed by what they were seeing and hearing, especially the taped interview with the rancher and the mysterious claw. One of Terry's closest associates, who went by the username John Station, pulled up a similar bizarre case of a Los Angeles hiker who died in the hills. In the days before his death, his family and friends reported him complaining about insomnia and experiencing an increasing state of paranoia and distress. He started taking long walks across remote trails in hopes of tiring himself out enough to finally get some sleep, but that time never came. When his corpse was found, it was mauled and half-eaten. Everyone assumed that a mountain lion had killed him, and other scavengers had fed on him before his body was found. But now, Terry wasn't so sure. The more they looked into it, the more they found strange and unpleasant deaths connected to people suffering from what seemed like severe insomnia. Despite its debilitating effects, the only type of insomnia that directly causes death is the exceedingly rare genetic condition fatal familial insomnia, which couldn't account for the sheer number of deaths the Parawatch team were finding. In their minds, there was only one reasonable conclusion. The deaths weren't the result of the insomnia itself, but whatever was causing it. It was only then that Terry noticed his own inability to sleep, and his previous excitement was gradually replaced with panic. At first, he tried to keep it all in proportion, knowing that it's easy to invent things to fear when you're in uncharted territory. But as the days passed and the sleep never came, his worry became unassailable. Terry knew that he hadn't just discovered a new paranormal phenomenon, he was becoming one of its victims. He became increasingly paranoid over the next few days, taking constant EVP readings from around his apartment in hopes of detecting whatever was around him. There were strange noises, frightening noises. He just knew it. But little did poor Terry know, there was a very good reason he couldn't detect his tormentors. While he had been in his apartment for days now, he had no hope of ever seeing them. The human eye's spectrum of visible light is around 380 to 750 nanometers, but the monsters who deprived him of his ability to sleep existed somewhere around 900. They were entirely undetectable to the human eye, and they were waiting for their latest meal. As the insomnia grew worse, Terry received some frightening news. That rancher who he'd spoken to a few days before was found dead on his property, with severe injuries comparable to that of a wild animal attack. Just like his cattle, and just like all the other strange cases the Parawatch Forum had found, first the insomnia, then the frightening paranormal experiences, and then Terry felt something warm and wet trickling down the back of his neck. He probably would have realized it was his own blood if a 20-centimeter claw, just like the one he had pulled out of the dead cow, hadn't just pierced his brainstem. Terry Hallberg had finally gotten what he wanted, a first-hand experience with the supernatural, and all he had to do was die. But in his defense, being saved from SCP-966, a whole species of monsters known as the Sleep Killers, is almost worse than being killed by them. When they release their deadly energy pulse, their primary anomalous effect, which induces sleeplessness on anyone or anything in their immediate 20-meter radius, the effects are permanent. They essentially induce fatal insomnia, and your only options are to die by their claws or live long enough to see your own body and mind give out from the horrible effects of true sleep deprivation. They travel in pairs, and because of their invisibility, you never know when they're lurking around you, waiting to rob you of your sleep and then your life. The Foundation currently has 4 specimens in containment, but believe us, there are a lot more out there, and they're hungry. Sleep tight, if you can. Now go check out Killer Living Graffiti SCP-1155 Predatory Street Art, and Waldo Finds You SCP-4885 Find Him, for more terrifying monsters that'll hunt you to your last breath.